Okay, so let's dive into some pretty heavy history today.
Sounds good.
You know how sometimes you kind of get curious about the bad guys,
Oh, yeah.
like what makes them tick?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Netherlands just declassified this huge archive from World War II,
Wow.
and it sheds light on exactly that.
Really?
And it's more complicated than just good versus evil.
You telling me
Yeah.
it's easy to think of the Netherlands as just victims of the Nazis,
Right.
Especially with Anne Frank's story being so well known.
Right.
But this archive really forces us to look at the other side of the story.
Like the Dutch citizens who collaborated.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is a massive collection of information. This
It is.
War in Court project that you were telling me about from the Huygens Institute.
Yeah,
It has almost 500,000 names in it.
that's right.
That's like 5% of the entire Dutch population back in 1939,
It's a huge number.
all suspected of collaborating with the Nazis.
It is.
It
It really makes you think about the scale of it.
Yeah, and it was funded by the Dutch government.
Yeah, they're
And-
really committed to confronting this part of their history.
It's pretty incredible. Why release it now, though?
That is the question, isn't it?
80 years after the war ended?
Yeah,
You'd think it would come out sooner.
you would think.
So let's maybe dive into the list itself first,
Okay.
before we get into that.
Sure.
What does this archive actually reveal?
Well, it's more than just names.
Okay.
It actually goes into detail about the accusations against each person, what they were accused of doing,
Oh, wow.
whether they were actually brought to trial.
So not everybody went to trial.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it even includes information about victims and witnesses,
Oh, wow.
which adds this whole other layer of complexity to the whole thing.
Hold on, victims and witnesses.
Yeah.
What does that look like in the archive?
Well, one example that really stuck with me involved a baker who was accused of supplying bread to the Germans, while at the same time he was denying bread to his Jewish neighbors.
No way.
Yeah, you can imagine the dilemma he was facing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Caught between survival and his community.
Right?
The archive has testimonies from his neighbors who were left to starve while he profited from the occupation.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, it really shows how this archive isn't just about abstract historical figures.
It's personal.
It's about real people making tough choices in really difficult circumstances.
Wow, that is chilling.
It is.
It really makes you think about it differently.
Yeah, and it also highlights that there was a whole spectrum of offenses,
Right.
from serious crimes to maybe things that are a little bit more morally ambiguous, like just joining the Nazi party.
So it's not just black and white.
No, not at all.
It must make it hard for the Dutch people today to process all this.
So absolutely.
I was struck by how only a fifth of those named in the archive were actually ever brought to court.
Yeah.
That kind of suggests a reluctance to really deal with this issue after the war, doesn't it?
It does raise questions about what the post-war climate was like.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a desire to kind of just sweep everything under the rug and focus on rebuilding.
Yeah, just move on.
Right.
Don't dwell on the past.
Exactly.
It makes you think about how societies choose to remember, or I guess how they choose to forget
Right.
certain parts of their history.
Yeah.
So was it a conscious decision to suppress this information?
Well, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Maybe the government didn't actually suppress it,
Okay.
but maybe there was just a collective societal impulse to look away from the darker parts of the war.
It's like this concept of collective memory, right?
Exactly.
How societies kind of build their own narratives about the past.
Yeah, they often emphasize heroic moments
Sure.
and downplay the less flattering ones.
So this archive is kind of like a crack in that carefully constructed narrative.
I think so.
It's forcing people to face a past that maybe doesn't fit with the image they had.
Yeah.
For people whose family members are named in the archive, I can't even imagine what that must feel like.
It must be tough.
It's got to be hard.
Yeah, it has profound implications for how the Dutch understand their history and how they see themselves today.
And it's not just about the individual stories either.
Right.
There's also the bigger picture of the Nazi occupation
Mm-hmm.
and what it meant for the Netherlands as a whole.
Absolutely. Yeah, it goes beyond just the individuals.
Yeah.
The Netherlands, like many countries under Nazi occupation,
Yeah.
faced incredibly difficult circumstances, you know?
Yeah.
The pressure, the fear, all the propaganda,
Right.
economic hardships,
Yeah.
the complex social dynamics,
Right.
to really understand why some people collaborated.
Right.
We need to understand that context.
Yeah, it's easy to judge from where we sit now,
Right.
but the reality was so much more nuanced and challenging you can even probably imagine.
This archive really forces us to look at those shades of gray in human behavior.
Yeah, it's not always so clear-cut.
No.
Good versus evil.
It's about choices people make when they're under immense pressure.
Yeah.
Faced with these impossible situations.
This makes me think about that 2023 survey you mentioned.
Yeah.
In the Netherlands.
Right.
About Holocaust denial. Can you talk about that a bit more?
Sure. So this survey found that a lot of young people in the Netherlands either doubt that the Holocaust happened or they question how big it really was.
A pretty disturbing trend.
Yeah, it's definitely concerning.
And it's not just in the Netherlands.
No, it's been observed in other countries too.
It really highlights how important education is.
Absolutely.
So do you think this archive could actually help combat Holocaust denial?
I do. I think it has the potential.
Okay.
Because it provides this really concrete evidence of the Holocaust's impact, not just on the Jewish community, but on Dutch society as a whole.
It makes it more real?
It does.
Than just reading about it in a textbook.
Yeah, when you see the names and faces of people from your own country who were involved, either as victims or perpetrators, it becomes much harder to deny.
It's powerful.
It is.
So it's not just preserving the past. It's about using it.
To inform the present. And maybe even shape the future.
That's a big idea.
It is.
Confronting these uncomfortable truths could help prevent future atrocities.
I think so.
But it must also be so difficult for some people.
Right.
Especially those whose families are named.
Absolutely. There are definitely ethical considerations here. For some families, this could bring up a lot of pain, shame, even stigma after all these years.
It's important to be sensitive.
Yes. Empathy and understanding are crucial.
So how's the Dutch government handling all this?
Well, the Dutch Data Protection Authority actually stepped in.
Really?
And they restricted some of the details to protect people's privacy.
Oh, wow. So they're trying to find a balance between transparency and protecting people.
Yeah, it's a tough balance.
It is.
You have to weigh the benefits of historical understanding against the potential for harm.
There are no easy answers.
No, not at all.
But it's good that they're having this conversation.
It is. It shows their commitment to transparency and being ethical.
So this archive isn't just about uncovering the past.
No, it sparked this national conversation about how to handle these difficult historical truths.
It's kind of like the Netherlands is looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
Seeing both the good and the bad. And realizing that history isn't just something that happened a long time ago. It's part of who we are.
And who we might become.
Yeah, it's like holding a mirror up to society in a way.
It is.
And what's so interesting is this isn't just a Dutch thing.
No.
You said other countries are dealing with similar stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Could this be like a model for them?
I think it's a model worth looking at. You know, every country has its own skeletons in the closet, moments they'd rather forget.
Right.
This could inspire others to be more transparent about their pasts.
Makes you wonder, though, is there ever a point where digging up the past does more harm than good?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Where do you draw the line?
Right, between transparency and reopening old wounds.
It's a tough one.
It is, and I don't think there's an easy answer.
Yeah.
But I do think talking about it is important.
Right, just being open and honest.
Yeah, we can't just pretend the past didn't happen.
We can't just bury it.
Exactly. The key is to approach these conversations with sensitivity.
Yeah.
And a willingness to learn from those mistakes.
Learn from the past.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the facts. It's about how we deal with them.
Exactly. And that's where the challenge is.
Right.
This archive isn't just data.
Yeah.
It's like this catalyst for a much bigger discussion.
About who we are.
Exactly. National identity. Collective memory.
Yeah.
Even the nature of good and evil.
This deep dive has really raised more questions than answers.
It has.
But I think they're important questions. They make us think critically about our own history, our values, and, you know, our own potential for darkness and light.
It's about understanding human behavior.
Yeah.
The choices we make under pressure.
Right.
And what those choices mean for the future.
So for everyone listening,
what
are your takeaways?
What did you learn?
Does this make you want to learn more about your own country's history?
Or your family's past, even.
Do you think societies should always be completely transparent?
Even if it means digging up painful things?
Lots to think about.
A lot to consider, for sure.